And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Dr. Efrat Shokef, who during her near-death experience received a vision of what humanity is all about. Dr. Shokef, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me.
Well, we are excited to have you. And if you don't mind, can you give us a little bit of backstory before we get into your NDE?
Sure. I think the piece of backstory that is important is a kind of a premonition or a prayer that I had, that something is going to happen. And it's not something that I understood at the time. It's something I understood only as I integrated my near-death experience and everything that happened. The 5 days before, it was a Sunday morning, I had a gathering of moms and their babies in my house. My toddler was a little over 3 years old, and my twins were 13 months old. And it was kind of a celebration of how wonderful we managed to go through this difficult first year of twins. And we had a circle, and I invited each mom to share what motherhood means for her. Little did I know how this question of what motherhood means is going to be a core question in my own journey. Everybody shared, and then I was last as the host. And I had a whole speech planned of sharing how grateful I am to this group and to the mothers and the community and to our connections and blah, 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 blah. I couldn't say anything. And eventually when I was choking on my words, I was unable to say a thing. And then eventually I whispered, I want to be their mother. And I choked again. As things go with babies, the chatter soon took over, and there was food around, and a good friend, still a good friend that was sitting next to me, looked at me and said, "Are you okay?" And I told her, I have no idea. I was shivering. I had no idea what just happened. And my twins were on the way to me to nurse again, like as part of the circle. That's what everybody was doing. And I wrote it in my journal. The next few days were our regular days, good days, but also with little discomfort of a lot of confusion of being a mom at home and asking questions and knowing something is not aligned in my life, but not being able to catch on it. Then that Thursday morning, I died. I had my near-death experience. That morning was the only morning I was working at the time. I stayed at home with my twins, and I brought my toddler to the daycare. I had time. It was a really beautiful day. And her daycare was in the village next to us. We live in an area with small villages, and I brought her. I sat down. I had a chat with that same friend who sat next to me in the circle, and I got into my car and I drove up to where the college I was teaching at the time was. My next memory is being challenged to turn left, like there was this piece of timing that needed to be aligned. Again, this is a later interpretation. Eventually, I managed to turn left. It never took me so long to turn left into the main road out of the village. And my next memory is a sense of a boom. I did not see the other car coming. The other car slipped to the right and fixed to the left into me. The other woman from the story and I are good friends now, but that's a different story, a beautiful story. I didn't see her coming. I didn't realize it was a car crash. I was immediately out of my body. And I was immediately in shimmering light, love, like feather clouds, sense of softness. It was all so beautiful. I've been telling my NDE story for years now, and I never find the words, but when I talk, I feel it in my cells. I wasn't thinking about my body, about my broken body, I wasn't aware there was a car crash. I wasn't thinking about my babies. I was just in this most becoming back my essence, I guess. It was a sense of being accepted, being perfect as I was, floating as this luminous love in the fields of luminous love. And I was realizing slowly that this is what I am. Again, not a mental recognition, a sense, a physical. It's not a physical sense, it's an energetic sense, but it was feeling it in every piece of me. I noticed I was floating forward, and as I was floating forward, there were other beings floating forward with me. And we were floating, not very close to one another, but and with no communication between us, just floating forward, a few before me, a few after me, to my sides, like a very wide sense of floating forward. And as we were floating, this sense of love and stillness, deep, deep, deep stillness was all around, and then other beings were floating towards us. It was like this dual direction. There's other beings that were floating. I have that vision. It's so alive within me. Some of them had a more like a physical, earthly human look. Some of them were very long and tall beings, luminous. Everything was radiating light. Like it's such a bright light that it feels, it would dazzle if we were seeing it with our physical eyes. And there was also this kind of orb of light that was one of those beings that was coming forward. And those, some of them, just one met someone that was floating forward with me, and others were embracing in a group, like a soul family and a soul soul family and soul guidance, meeting that other being, the souls that I later understood were ones that left their body and actually died and did not come back to this lifetime, coming forward. I remember myself watching it. I didn't mind that nobody was coming for me. It was just so, so, so beautiful. And I was just, I guess, dancing is not the right word, but my energy was just dancing and being embraced in that luminosity and stillness and quietness, and just being me, just being the love that I am. At some point, they would move forward and continue forward with those ones that came to embrace them. And I want to stop on that point, because this is something that is, I think people just need to know, that when we leave our body and we go back home, there's always someone that really, really cares about us, that meets us there and envelops us and comes to help us in this process. And those meetings were so touching that every time I think of them and see that vision, because it is so alive within me, it's heartwarming. I don't worry about those who die around me. I think being here, seeing the suffering or being left behind is often much harder, because they're going home and they're embraced and everything is fine. Everything is always, always, always fine. And this is something very important that I have from this piece of my experience. So they were floating forward and others were coming and were being embraced. And at some point I noticed I am unable to move forward. There is like this unseen border that they're moving through and I'm not moving through. I'm just stuck there. I didn't care about it. It was just noticing. And after a while, it's still that sense of just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful experience of being me, being love, hearing that soft music of other dimensions. A being was coming towards me. And my recognition to that being was that it was my grandfather. There was something about the energies that felt to me like my grandfather. But I want to be honest about it, because while it didn't look like my grandfather, but it felt like my grandfather, and there was this deep communication of love. I later learned that it was, and I never asked this, my higher guidance, but that possibly this was my higher guidance taking the form of my grandfather so that I would be able to open up and let them embrace me. And after a very short telepathic communication, the communication is not in words and it's not through our hearts or our minds, it's like through our energy. My guide, my grandfather, invited me to stand on this really huge, white, shimmering balcony. And I don't know if it was Earth moving below us or if it was the balcony moving above Earth. And it felt like days, but I know that in the earthly time, I was away. It was about 7 minutes on average. I'm not sure exactly, but about 7 minutes that I wasn't in my body. And I was shown human life, different types of families, different type of geographies, different types of economical situation. And when a lot of happy, beautiful pieces of the experience we have here and the opportunities we have here in what we can experience and learn in the positive way, but also in the very sad way. The difficulties, the challenges. And all of these experiences, the one piece that they share is about the choice that we have as humans, and how the little choices, the very, very small choices that we make in our journey here can affect our path. And sometimes this very little decision or this very little moment that we are not aligned and it seems not significant or is actually what shifts us from one route or another route. And not every route is necessarily a detour within our path. Often it is the path itself, but every choice matters. And I could see the many sad choices, the many confused choices that so many of us make. I can reflect and on my journey on earth before this experience and be aware of many confused moments in my journey and many mistakes that looking back in retrospect, I would have made a different decision, but I wasn't seeing my own life. It wasn't about my own life, like I know for many other NDE stories. It was about humanity. Until at some point, it felt like in the middle of everything, but I don't think I was able to absorb one more piece of information. My grandfather, my guide, was very clear and said, "You must go now." It's like our time ended. And I wasn't even asked, do you want to stay in this beautiful place? Do you want to return our home? Do you want to go back to Earth? What's your choice? I wasn't given the choice. And I knew I wasn't given the choice. So I was accepting it within me just as it was happening. And I was already floating backwards with my face forward toward this cosmic space of love. And I fell back. And that was the second boom. I fell back into my body, my broken, bleeding body. At that point, there was someone who did not see the car crash happen, but was standing by me and was talking to me because that's what the paramedics told him to do. And he was constantly asking me, did you have babies in your car? Did you have babies in your car? Because he saw the car seat and two bases of the click connect, and the click connect, that could have separated. And it was really, really, and I was trying to answer him, but he was not hearing me. There was like, I was there, but I was not there. And I don't know how this happened, but for a short moment, I managed to be in my body very, very, with this clarity I can't, even with everything I know today, I can't explain. I told him, no babies, my husband's name, and my home phone number. And indeed, he called my husband, and my husband was already on his way. And by the time my husband came there, the paramedics and everybody, I was already being taken care of and taken out of the car. After that moment of clear communication, I was out again, rolling my eyes, not barely breathing, and I was floating up, but this time not into dimensions of luminous love and to where I visited, just a little above my car, and I could see the fire in the front and the paramedics taking me out and all that process taking place. I didn't know it was me. I wasn't aware of that going in and out. I didn't understand there was a car crash. And my next memory is, I guess it is an in-body memory, because as my husband managed to drive through the traffic jam that was created, he saw a friend. He threw his car keys to that friend. He told him, "It's Efrat up there. Just take my car home." And he put his hand on my forehead, and I was like, okay, I can let go because I'm safe now. He's there. And I was evacuated with a helicopter, induced coma in the ICU, operations, and a long recovery and a long integration, because I had multiple injuries, a lot of broken bones, a lot of internal organs that are not as we are born with them, and also a long process of integrating what happened, what this beautiful thing, where did I visit, and what does it mean to my life? So I guess that's my NDE.
Efrat, thank you for sharing your experience with us. If we go back to the beginning, why do you think you got that premonition?
Oh, wow. I always had premonitions, and I was always a seer and a knower from early childhood. But it scared me. It really, really, really scared me. So I would know things and I would close that door. And I would know things and I would close that door, because I wasn't aware of the adults in my life that I could have talked to and God's guidance. I think that moment of saying the prayer that led me, I want to be their mom, I think that was a moment of my choice in my path, because today I know I had to go through this car crash and near-death experience to be doing the service I came to Earth to do. And possibly I could have evolved and accepted and embraced my abilities and what I came here to do without that, if I had listened to a lot of invitations that I've received. But given that I did not listen to those invitations to walk who I am and develop the abilities I needed to develop and walk my essence here, this car crash was something I wrote for myself. And so that I would have no choice but to say, yes, I'm showing up. And that motivation to do that was my daughter's.
So you're saying you planned this car accident pre-birth?
I'm saying that, yes, I think that was part of my blueprint, an exit point. That was not something that necessarily had to happen, but that was a point in time that I planned, that if I would miss all the other opportunities, then yes, that would be something that would push me from both sides, from up and down, from all over, and say, okay, you're here now, and now you're going to be showing up. But showing up to be my own essence and showing up in the world, which means so many aspects of being out of my comfort zone. Even talking to you now, that's not my natural choice, being visible and sharing my story, but I understand I have to. I don't think that would have pushed me to be showing up without that piece of wanting to be my daughter's mom, of showing up for them. That was the motivation, and that was the prayer. I want to be their mother. I was saying to the universe, I know I had a plan, and I know this is an exit point, but I need to stay here. I need to stay here because of them, not because of anything else. And if there is anything you want me to do so that I could stay here, I would say yes to everything, but I need to stay here. And I did. And I am their mom. And it's my greatest accomplishment ever.
You heard the boom, and then instantly you were in another realm.
Yes.
When you first got there, did you understand that you were dead? Or if not, what were you thinking? What happened to you?
I didn't understand anything, and I didn't care to understand. It felt, I don't like this example, but I think it's a good one. It's like when kids go to Disneyland, and it's magical. It's just perfectly magical for them. Or when a kid first sees a huge waterfall, and they're like in this, I was in awe, and I was just enjoying what was happening around me and the stillness that was just penetrating my being. And it was a new place because I did not have a recollection of this place, but I also knew I've been there before. It was this kind of combined not knowing and knowing the space. I wasn't aware of anything, and I didn't care about anything. And it's what, maybe I didn't care is not the right wording, because it's not that I didn't care. I guess if I was aware that I left my daughters and I just left my body and this and this and this happened, I might have, but I wasn't thinking about it. That's not what this time was about. I was going home. I was on my way home. The home. So it was just being embraced. Nothing else mattered.
When you were floating with other beings, some of them you saw were humanoid like you, and some of them were not. Does that mean to you that they were potentially some other life form from some other realm?
Oh, definitely. I think we're all a combination. I think we all carry all kinds of DNAs. And when this is a jump, but my whole journey took me to do shamanic work and do energy healing with children. And when I see specifically the little beings that are coming as our babies and as our little children today, many of them are not souls that have incarnated many times. It's the first time around here. And they would probably not come back again. And when we look at the planets and the spaces they come from, they come from so many places. So our family, what we call our soul family, it's not just, to my understanding and based on my experience, it's not just souls that have incarnated and that we've been coming and going with them for lifetimes, and who meet us when we come back home, or that help or that guide us from other dimensions while we hear in dreams and in various types of communications. Our soul family, our being family, is composed of beings from all kinds of places that maybe we visited, maybe that's where we come from, maybe that's where we're going next. I think it's a much more complex picture, and at least in other dimensions, I have not met anybody from another dimension here in their other dimension form, I would call it. But I have met such beings as part of my shamanic journeying practicing, and as part of being a cosmic journeyer. I've met only the most amazing, loving, kind, all those aspects of humanness that we want to encourage and evolve and bring in into our lives and walk our lives with. They're all so amazing. And yes, some of them are walking between us in human form. And as I said at the beginning of my answer to your question, I think we all have all kinds of DNAs within us.
You also mentioned that you saw an orb, and the way I interpret what you said was that orbs are beings that have completely crossed over and are not coming back. Is that correct? And if so, let me just finish up with this. Does that mean that all the other beings that you saw out there were going to go back to wherever they were from? Like they were all having NDEs?
I don't think any of the ones that were floating forward with me were having an NDE. I think they were crossing over. They were going back home. There was no one that I noticed that stopped as I stopped and did not continue forward, being embraced by the loved one that came for them. I think the orb of light was just another type of energy. I have no way of knowing if this is an energy that will take a human form or not. I think, again, to my experience of other dimensions, you can take the shape of an orb of light, your energy. You're now in a dense form, but your energy, and I am too, and so is everybody else. So we take all kinds of forms while living in different places and experience different types of life. But we're all basically energy. So when we take all of that off, we're energy. I did not feel that orb of light was an energy of a higher frequency than others, or that it was any special in any way. It just came in a different form. So I can't say anything more about that because that's what I know about it. It didn't feel to me like it was something greater than the other types of energies that showed up. But I guess it had a meaning to that being that was coming and that was being embraced. So that's why it showed itself in this way.
Do you feel like that realm was some type of intermediary realm before you go on to somewhere else?
Yeah. It's a realm of love. And I think that's it's not, I know that's what my cells are made of and your cells are made of, and everybody. Most beautiful place. But yes, I think that for many, this is a place of like a train station on the way, somewhere we pass through. We spend there some, I think, to my knowledge, some spend there more time, some just go through it and immediately to other places, depending on who you are, what you came here to do.
You also mentioned that you heard music of other dimensions. Can you describe that in any way? And have you heard anything similar to it since you've been back?
I've never heard anything similar because it's at the same time, there was this really deep quietness and stillness. But then I could also hear, I refer to it as faraway bells. It was like very delicate bell music, not strong bell music, but very, 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 very delicate, coming from very, very, very far. I think the closest instrument is a harp. One of my daughters plays a harp. It sometimes when she would play and I would be thrown into that dimension, but it's still not the same, but that would be the closest.
You referred to the being as your higher guidance. Does that mean it's your higher self, another aspect of you, or would you say it's still a higher guide that's completely separate from you?
We all walk with various layers and levels of being able to communicate and be guided. So maybe the immediate layer is our own self, and then our higher guidance of giving us information, that piece of intuition and knowing of this is right, this is wrong, having a déjà vu for a moment, like a reminder, this needed to happen. But as we open up, and this is possible for everyone, as we open up, we can meet beings that are separate from ourselves. And these beings, there is a difference in their frequency. And this is in my teachings to teens. I have a group of teens that I work with, and I always tell them it's okay to communicate with other beings as long as you want to communicate and as long as you are able to recognize their frequency and that this is high frequency. Don't talk to low frequency beings. They're not bad or anything. They're just not the ones to receive guidance from. So my guidance, I have higher guidance. It's high frequency beings that I am that are separate from me, that they're not me, and they're guiding many others, not just myself.
How does one determine whether the being is high frequency or low?
That's an important question. It's the sense and the feeling that you get from that being. It needs to be a sense of pure love, always encouraging, never pushing you to do anything, always for you, never asking or guiding anything with any interest. It's a learning process. It's often a learning process of how to recognize high frequencies. I would give an example from something very, very popular today, channeling messages. Like people talk, they let other beings talk through them and channel all kinds of messages. And this is tricky because they don't always know exactly who that being is. And they get these beautifully worded messages. If those beings giving those messages request that you always quote them the way that they talk, that's maybe okay beings and maybe very wise beings, but that's not high frequency, because real, true high frequency would tell you, take that information, digest it, make it yours, and share it in your words, because there is no piece of energetic ego of who said who and who communicated who and who affected who. I also encourage, again, based on learning it on the upside down, I guide children to meet their power animal or guidance in the sacred space of a shamanic journey. Not as you and I are talking over Zoom or just hearing voices in their literal reality. Why? Because then they are controlling which spaces they are going to. And we teach them how to go to specific spaces that are high frequency. So they're eliminating all kinds of noise, energetic noise, that shouldn't be there because of the protocol. There's a very clear protocol on the questions, and we ask questions, and we learn how to recognize those frequencies. And the frequencies are pure frequencies of love. And these are frequencies that sometimes people don't recognize immediately. I don't remember where I learned this teaching. It's not my own, but so I'm not sure who I should give credit to, but I was guided to always ask, are you my highest? Are you mine, my guide? And are you the highest frequency guidance that I am supposed to be communicating about this topic? And the energetic world works in a way that if it's not your highest guidance and it's not your guidance, they would move away and make room for those that you're supposed to be communicating with come forth.
They won't lie to you?
I was never lied to. And if somebody lies to you, that's not high frequency. That means they have an interest and not just your best interest in place. And with children, it's often challenging because when children are alone or frightened, energies from around become their best friends. And that imaginary friend can be an angel or really high guidance. And that can also be an energy just being around and finding home with those open children, sensitive, spiritually aware children. And we have more and more of them around us. So it requires the parents to be involved, to give that guidance, to help those low frequency energy go away, and then bring in and open the door and encourage the kids to communicate with their power animals or their angel or whatever high frequency they're communicating with, because that's where we source our knowing of our journey. and mediate the healing that we can all bring here to this beautiful yet suffering earth. So
Why do you think we all make so many wrong choices?
wow, I have a vision of children just being who they are in their essence and growing to be who they are in their essence. And I see that confusion we walk through as human, just, floating away. It's a lot of old paradigms that we are born into that say this is how things work, and this is how my family did this, and this is how the grandparents did this, and this is what helped order. And we have a lot of forces that are trying to keep that order. And at the same time, a lot of souls are growing through those old paradigms and through those systems. And systems are needed. They're not necessarily negative. It just depending for whom and how and in what sense. And they reach an age when they say, wait, but I'm not walking my truth. And then they have to go through a lot of healing. And the healing is often not just from all of the experiences that they had as they were growing up in the human form in this lifetime. It's often things coming from their family lineage and their culture and collective energies. And there's so many aspects to the healing. And there's a lot of noise in the modern world. There's so much noise. And what does success mean? Achievement. We are bounded by concepts of time. We can, there's so many reasons. But my personal journey took me, after I integrated, I healed physically, and I'm considered a miraculous healing. The doctors didn't think I would be in such good health. And I integrated my near-death experience and understood what I understood. I saw that, all those moments of not being aligned, of being confused, the moment we recognize them, the moment we were saying, okay, I'm willing to see those moments, something tremendous shifts. Because then next time that our phone rings while we are with our kids, we won't answer. Or next time when we have that, we really want that 5th or 10th cup of coffee, and we'll say, maybe I'll drink a water before. That is a tip I heard lately, and it's beautiful. We have alternatives, but it's a matter of choosing what is right for us and listening. And as we step into that, just being attentive to our truth. And these are 2 of the promises I talk about in my new book. We step into the motion of saying yes to who we are in our essence. And as parents, it's really crucial, because then we're kind of communicating energetically to our kids. You're okay as you are. So it's going to take me time, because I'm an adult and I collected all kind of noise along my life, and it's going to take time to push that away. But you stay who you are, because I'm on that motion of collecting soul moments. I'm on the motion of healing and doing my best to become the essence that you chose to come to. So we have a lot of reasons, but I think that our focus should be not on the reasons, but on choosing differently. Making different choices, and if not for ourselves, then for our kids, so that they would grow up to be who they came here to be. And some of it is related to us, and we can work things through us for them, and some of it is not related to us, and all we can do is do our best to be who we are, because then we're fulfilling the promise of who they came here to be, because they came to us for the promise, for the potential, for the possible, not the wounded, confused human. So it's, and this was part of what I was seeing in my near-death experience from that balcony, that confusion. And the way to get out of that confusion and noise is by those small choices, choosing differently. And choosing differently doesn't mean to go for the woo-woo necessarily, like I did. It's about what we eat. It's about taking a moment to take a breath. It's about being aware what is right for us and what is not right of us. Are we getting enough sleep? Are we having the right people around us? Like so many pieces that are just normal human life If somebody is suffering at their job, then knows, and find another job. The universe will cooperate and will help you find that new job so you can be the person you want to be. We come with dreams. We come with we come with passion. We come with ideas. We come with so many abilities, and the world just contracts them because this is right and this is wrong. This is how you earn your living, and this is how you don't. And it's again those choices, the way out of that swamp of sadness, of heaviness, of not being happy, of confusion, is choosing to step out of it, regardless of what everybody around you says. But there's so many people doing that. It's possible.
After your experience, did you notice that you have any new abilities that you didn't have prior that could be considered psychic?
Yes. I was always a bit psychic, but I never embraced it. But after the near-death experience, something really significant opened. And my abilities were in a levels that I never had before, never experienced before. I noticed I could, it was really scary at first. I would, a friend would tell me her daughter was sick, and I would just think of her with love in my heart, and she would be healthy. All kinds of things like that happened around me. And that took me to go and study shamanic techniques because I was looking for a system and a wisdom structure that would guide me in how to use these abilities. So yeah, the NDE opened up the abilities to travel to other dimensions, to mediate healing to others. And then the shamanic studies gave me the structure, shamanic studies, energy healing, gave me the structures and the tools of how to do that in a very efficient way. And also it taught me the ethics of how you mediate healing energetically, the issue of receiving permission, what is right to do, what is not right to do, boundaries, and all kinds of stuff like that. So yes, the NDE opened up a whole new world for me in those terms of being able to see, to track, to know, to mediate healing, to be a conduit of light. I hope I do my best to be a conduit of light for the earth and for the people around me and for those I work with.
Do you fear death?
Oh no, death is fun. If I was being promised that I would come back to be my daughter's mother until they're really, really, really old, and don't need me any and around them anymore, I would be willing to die every day. That moment, I think we're all scared of that last breath. And when I when I have the honor of walking with someone in those last days or last weeks, I always tell them, when you feel it's coming, just slow your breath and don't panic, because I think that's the only piece that is really, really scary, that's choking on that last breath. The suffering, the illness, it serves a purpose. It allows often resolution of all kinds of relational issues and stuff. It's really important time, but it's not fun. That piece is not fun. And for those who are staying, that is not fun. But for those who are leaving, it's a party. When you go to cemeteries, I'm getting a permission to share this. And those of us who are psychic and can see things, you see the funeral taking place on earth. And often just above, exactly above, you see a party, a luminous party of embracing, because this is coming home. We're coming for this beautiful journey. It's really a beautiful journey and a rich journey, but a very complex journey. And then we go back home. And there is a welcoming party. Not in every funeral, not in every situation, but I stand with my head up in funerals. I look up to see their party, or is they're not a party. What's going on? Death is beautiful. And death, as an archetype, is beautiful because it allows us to leave behind pieces of ourselves that do not serve us. And I think that in our culture, the modern culture, we kind of distanced ourselves from processes. Everything has to happen yesterday. We don't have time for things. And that means things can die. They just need to happen. There's always, and so that's on all of its aspects, is a positive, beautiful experience. The suffering that happens around it is not. But that piece of suffering is also, I would say, has layers of choice. I'm saying layers of choice because when someone we love is in pain, or the pain is not fun, and when they leave, we miss them. But there is a piece of missing them and choosing to take the time that we need, but then continue living or being, or dying ourselves and disconnecting from the world. That's a piece of choice. And it depends on so many aspects. For some people, it's easier. For some people, it's harder. These are the hard pieces about death. But the death itself, the leaving of the body, beautiful, fun, exciting. And I think you hear that from everybody, probably from everyone that you interview, that piece is the good piece.
You have a book out about your experience called The Promise We Made, 3 Universal Soul Promises We Made to Our Children.
My book, I'm very proud of it. The Promise We Made talks about, I share my journey, my car crash, my near-death experience, and the 2 interweaving threads that were leading me in my own process. What makes me my daughter's mom when I'm not participating in any of the care? And how do we share that heavenly experience that we experience in near-death experiences, that we experience in dimensions of love in the here and now? And those questions led me to 3 universal promises. If we distinguish between personal promises, like what did your children need from you? Why did they choose you with your personality, with your life conditions, everything? How did that facilitate their journey? And my daughters had their request, and each one of them in a different way. Then there are those universal aspects, pieces of expectations that whoever comes to us expects from us. And I relate to them as promises that I made to any child that would choose me. And in their essence, they come back to allowing them to keep their truth and their spiritual essence while knowing how to be living their human life and cultivating attentiveness and being in the motion of healing. And in the book, beyond sharing my own, how did I get and how did I realize how did I come to those understandings? I give a lot of examples of how we do the opposite. Our child is born and we assume we know better and we think it's a dependent little baby when it's actually a huge being or a very evolved soul that is now going through the process of coming back to earth and has made a choice to come to us and has chosen us to guide it. But we put it into structure. You have to sleep now, you have to wake up now, you have to wait with diaper change, you have to eat this, you don't eat that. And we don't listen to what they communicate to us when they can communicate to us from very early age. And we put them into that order of society, but we take them away from themselves. So the book is an invitation. It's not a how-to book, not a how-to parenting book, and I'm not an expert to other families. Through my story, I try to invite readers to observe their own family and see how they can guide their own kids and create the conditions that their kids need to walk their essence, to be who they are. Because when we walk our essence and we are aligned and we attend to our truth, we have those little moments of such great alignment that we feel that joy, the whole joy that I felt in my NDE here in our physical body. And it's amazing to watch families and children walk this path and their whole life changes because they're walking who they are. And their life is filled with joy, no matter how noisy and chaotic the situation is around them. So that's kind of what I'm guided to share about my book for now.
Can you give us some tips on how to fulfill the promises or be the people that they're expecting us to be as they chose us pre-birth?
I think there are two steps that I would start with. Number one is recognizing that our kids are on a journey, a soul journey like we are. A lot of adults walk with understanding they're on a journey at some level of understanding, but they don't take that into their children's lives. But just as I am on a journey, you're on a journey, everybody around us is on a journey, including our little kids. So that's explore this idea of everybody being on a journey, including your kids. Just opening up to the idea already makes a big difference. And the second is to start noticing alignment in your own life. Because as we notice those soul moments when we are aligned and how we feel within them, and it often starts with noticing all those moments we are not aligned, but that shows us it gives us the direction of where we can make the little changes. When we notice and anchor that feeling of wholeness, of joy, of precision, of alignment within us in those distinct soul moments, and it's less than a minute often. It's not in the big decisions, also in the big decisions, but often in the little decisions. We enter a process of energetic awakening. So our energy already awakens because we are noticing, we have intention. And as soon as we're on that, we're already communicating to our kids that something is happening. We're listening to our truths. We give them that example. We sit down to listen to what we know. We give them that example. And then it's also about respecting them and asking them and being in communication. So I guess this is where I would start.
If people want to find out more about your book, should they go to your website or Amazon?
So the book is available on Amazon, and soon it will also be available in other stores, and you'll be able to also order it to your local small bookstores, which I really encourage people to do, but there is a technical delay with that, but that is happening soon. And there's a lot of information on my book, and there are a lot of free resources for parents and articles and more on my website, which is my name, efratshokef.com.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that?
I'm very open to that. I love receiving emails and messages, and there is the information on how to contact me, including my email, is on my website.
Efrat,
so yes, please write.
Efrat, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
When you walk the knowing of you, the kind, loving, the essence of you, which is true to everyone, no matter what you've been through, life will change and the universe will reach out a hand. And when we each do that one by one in our separate lives, that's when we connect into the one that we are. And life becomes beautiful. Living on earth is beautiful when we allow it to be and choose to see and walk through that vision. Change is possible.
Dr. Shokef, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me. It's been wonderful to talk to you.
Likewise. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.